The arena was silent save for the hum of energy barriers and the distant roar of spectators holding their breath. The battle had reached a tension unlike any seen before. Dust and sparks swirled around the polished platform, evidence of the extraordinary fight that had unfolded. Lyria and Ethan faced each other, their eyes locked, understanding that the next few moments could determine everything. Lyria's breathing was steady, her muscles taut and ready for action. She had fought countless opponents, yet none had ever challenged her like this human. Small, underestimated, and yet precise, patient, and clever. Her pride as the undefeated champion did not allow her to underestimate anyone. But she had learned that underestimating Ethan would have been a grave mistake. Ethan, standing with calm precision, surveyed the arena and the champion before him. His mind was sharp, every movement calculated, every observation stored for the perfect opportunity. Strength alone would not win this fight. Speed alone would not win it. It would be strategy, timing, and courage, and he had all three. The crowd leaned forward, silent in anticipation. They had witnessed the human survive strike after strike from the greatest champion in the galaxy. Now they sensed the decisive moment was near. Lyria moved first. She lunged with her fists, a flurry of attacks meant to overwhelm him. Sparks of energy erupted where her strikes met the platform. But Ethan was ready. He moved with perfect timing, stepping, twisting, and dodging just enough to avoid damage. Each movement was precise, conserving energy while observing her patterns. For a moment they circled, each looking for an advantage. The air was tense, charged with anticipation. Then Lyria struck again, faster and stronger, her every movement a test of skill. But Ethan's mind was calm. He saw a rhythm in her attacks, a pattern hidden beneath speed and power. He waited, patient, for the perfect moment. It came. Lyria executed a spinning strike, one she had used countless times before to defeat opponents in an instant. But Ethan noticed the smallest shift in her weight, the tiniest hesitation in her movement. It was enough. He shifted his stance, pivoting perfectly, and delivered a single, precise strike to her torso, not with raw strength, but with impeccable timing and accuracy. The impact threw Lyria slightly off balance. For the first time in countless battles, she stumbled. The crowd gasped. Aliens whispered in disbelief. Impossible. The human has done it. No one has ever challenged her like this. Lyria recovered quickly, her eyes wide with respect and a flicker of surprise. She realized she had underestimated not the human's strength, but his intelligence. One strike, calculated, precise, and perfectly timed, had changed everything. Ethan did not move hastily. He stayed poised, ready to react if needed, but confident that his strike had created the opening he had been waiting for. He had not won with force alone. He had won with strategy, observation, and courage. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, but today he had proven that they could surpass even the greatest champions. The crowd erupted. The sound was deafening, a mixture of astonishment, excitement, and admiration. Aliens cheered, acknowledging the human skill, and even Lyria's own followers were impressed. For a moment, the arena seemed to shake with the collective energy of astonished spectators. Lyria steadied herself, breathing deeply. Her eyes met Ethan's, and in that gaze was recognition, respect, admiration. She had declared the arena hers, confident in her invincibility. But this human had taken it in a single perfect strike, not through brute force but through intelligence, patience, and precision. "You," she said softly, voice carrying across the arena. "You are extraordinary. Few have ever stood against me, and none have done what you have." Ethan nodded calmly. "Strength is not the only path to victory," he replied. "Observation, timing, and courage are equally important. You are powerful, Lyria, but even the greatest have openings if one pays attention." The spectators erupted into louder cheers. Humans had always been underestimated in the galaxy, but today, one had proven their worth beyond question. They had witnessed something remarkable. A human standing against the undefeated champion and prevailing with skill, patience, and intelligence. Lyria rose fully to her feet, her posture strong, yet humble. She approached Ethan and extended her hand. "You have earned my respect," she said. "Today the arena belongs to you not because of strength alone, but because of your mind and courage. You have reminded me that true power comes from more than muscle. It comes from intellect, patience, and heart." Ethan took her hand, shaking it firmly. "Thank you," he said simply. "Your skill and strength are incredible. I only had to find the moment and use it carefully. The crowd roared again. Lyria had acknowledged the human as the victor, and the significance of that statement spread through the arena like wildfire. Humans were no longer seen as weak, they were clever, resilient, and capable of greatness. As the spectators cheered, Ethan looked around the arena. He saw the faces of aliens, some amazed, some thoughtful, all recognizing something new about humans. He had not only won the battle, he had changed perceptions across the galaxy. Lyria stepped back, giving him space, a small smile of respect on her face. "This is a fight I will remember," she said. "You are a worthy opponent. The galaxy must take notice of your people." Ethan bowed slightly, acknowledging both the champion and the crowd. He did not gloat. Victory for him was not about pride. It was about proving that humans could stand against any challenge if they used their minds and courage. The energy barriers around the arena shimmered and lowered, signaling the end of the match. Spectators continued to cheer, some chanting Ethan's name, others acknowledging Lyria's sportsmanship and the incredible duel they had witnessed. For Ethan, the battle was over, but its significance was far greater than winning a fight. It was about proving that humans could rise to challenges that others thought impossible. It was about showing that intelligence, strategy, and courage could rival even the strongest physical power in the galaxy. Lyria approached him once more. "You have taken the arena with one strike," she said, voice calm but filled with admiration. "Not through brute force, but through thought, timing, and patience. You remind us all that true power is not just strength, it is mind, heart, and spirit." Ethan smiled slightly. "Every fight has a lesson," he said. "Today I learned that even the strongest can be challenged with observation and courage. And I hope others will see that humans are not to be underestimated." The spectators erupted again, cheering wildly for both warriors. Today had been more than a battle. It had been a demonstration of courage, skill, and the strength of the human spirit. Lyria raised Ethan's hand for the crowd to see. "Let this be a lesson to all," she said. "The arena may have belonged to me, but today it belongs to the one who sees, learns, and acts at the right moment. Today a human has proven that courage and intelligence can triumph over all." Ethan stood tall, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. The applause and cheers were not just for victory. They were for the spirit, the courage, and the cleverness of humanity. He had faced the greatest champion, observed, adapted, and struck at the perfect moment. One strike, yes, but that one strike represented the ingenuity, resilience, and potential of an entire species. The sun of Zarian Prime dipped below the horizon, casting a golden light across the arena. The dust and sparks that had swirled around the platform now seemed like particles of history being written. Ethan had done more than win a fight. He had changed perceptions, inspired awe, and reminded the galaxy that humans were capable of greatness. As the crowd continued to cheer, Ethan took a step back from the center of the arena. He had proven his point. Humans were not weak. They were clever, adaptable, and courageous. He had done what many thought impossible, and his victory would be remembered for generations. Lyria nodded once more. "The arena may have been mine, but today, the human took it in one strike," she said, a smile of respect on her face, and with that, Ethan left the arena not just victorious, but as a symbol of what humans could achieve when courage, intelligence, and timing were combined. The galaxy had seen something extraordinary, and the story of the human who bested the undefeated champion in one perfect strike would be told for ages to come. The crowd's cheers echoed through the arena long after the combatants had departed. Today the arena had witnessed history. Today humanity had shown its true strength, not in raw power but in mind, heart, and spirit. Ethan's victory was complete, not only in the battle but in changing the galaxy's perception of his kind. The arena, once declared hers by Lyria, had been claimed not by force but by ingenuity, courage, and the brilliance of a human mind, and so, the story ended not with destruction but with admiration, respect, and the knowledge that humans could rise to meet any challenge no matter how impossible it seemed. The arena trembled as Ethan and Lyria continued their battle. Dust and debris rose from the polished platform with every strike and dodge. The air vibrated with energy, charged from the incredible power Lyria wielded. Sparks flickered off her movements while Ethan moved with calm precision, dodging and observing. The crowd was silent in awe, unable to believe their eyes. A human, small and underestimated, had not only survived the attacks of the undefeated champion, but was moving with skill and intelligence that matched her own. Spectators whispered to each other. "He is still alive, and learning." "This is impossible. Humans cannot do this." Lyria paused, breathing lightly but with eyes sharp as blades. She had faced countless warriors, yet this human continued to defy every expectation. "You are clever," she said, voice carrying over the arena. "I can feel it. You adapt too quickly and your mind is sharp. Most opponents would have fallen long ago." Ethan nodded, adjusting his stance. "Strength is important," he said calmly, "but thought and timing are just as powerful. You have strength. I have strategy." For a moment they circled each other, each waiting for the other to make the first significant move. The crowd leaned forward, the tension nearly unbearable. Every eye was on them, every heart beating with anticipation. Then Lyria struck again. This time her strikes were not just fast, they were relentless. Fists and feet flew like arrows, each one aimed to overwhelm and end the fight. Ethan moved with care, twisting, dodging, and using his momentum cleverly to avoid damage. He did not strike with force yet. He was looking for the opening, learning the pattern of her attacks and conserving energy for the critical moment. The champion's movements became more complex. She combined spins, jumps, and unpredictable strikes. Her power radiated in waves that made the platform tremble under their feet. Yet, Ethan adapted, observing her tells, the slight twitch of her fingers before a punch, the fraction of a second pause before a kick. He remembered each detail, ready to use it when the time was right. The crowd could not contain their amazement. "Look at him move," someone shouted. "A human, standing against the champion." Another alien whispered, "Strength alone will not win here. He is clever, too clever for a human." Lyria noticed it too. The human's strategy was simple but effective. Survive, observe, and counter. Every move he made seemed calculated. And slowly, she realized something important. She could not overpower him with brute strength alone. She needed to think, adapt, and anticipate. Ethan took a deep breath. His mind was calm, analyzing each movement of the champion. He could sense a rhythm in her strikes, a pattern buried beneath the speed and power. He waited for the moment, the precise instant when her confidence and momentum could become her weakness. Then it came. Lyria spun for a powerful uppercut, a strike that could have sent almost any opponent flying. Ethan saw the slight delay in her movement, the tiniest hesitation that only careful observation could detect. He shifted his weight, stepped to the side, and let her momentum carry her forward. The crowd gasped. Every spectator recognized that something important was happening. Ethan's skill was extraordinary. He was not just surviving, he was beginning to control the pace of the fight. Lyria recovered quickly, but her eyes held a spark of respect. "You are remarkable," she said. "Few opponents notice that moment, few survive it, and yet you are still standing." Ethan's face remained calm. "Observation and patience," he said. "They are as important as strength." For several moments the two warriors circled each other again. Lyria's strikes became sharper, faster, more unpredictable, while Ethan's movements grew more precise, his dodges cleaner. The platform had become a dance of strength and strategy, each step measured, each strike calculated. Then, Lyria made a misstep. Not large, but enough. Her foot slid slightly on the polished surface, a fraction of a second too slow. Ethan saw it instantly. He had been waiting for this exact moment, the precise opening to turn the fight in his favor. He moved, not with force, but with calculated speed. He tapped her shoulder lightly, just enough to unbalance her slightly. She staggered but remained upright, surprised at the precision and timing. Her eyes widened, recognizing the human's intent. The crowd erupted in cheers. "He's doing it! The human is finding an opening," someone shouted. Others clutched the edges of their seats, unable to believe the skill displayed. Ethan did not strike again immediately. He did not rush. He knew the moment was coming. He just needed to be precise. He backed away slightly, keeping Lyria within his observation, waiting for the next opportunity. Patience was his greatest weapon, and he intended to use it fully. Lyria's attacks became more cautious. She realized that her overwhelming power alone would not be enough. The human was clever, adapting to her every move. He survived strikes that would have crushed any other opponent. She had underestimated him at first, thinking him weak, but now she knew better. "Human," she said, a tone of respect in her voice. "You are not like the others. You fight with intelligence. You fight with precision. But do you think that will be enough?" Ethan's gaze did not waver. "It will," he replied simply. "Strength can be overcome by thought. Every pattern has a weakness." The arena seemed to hold its breath. The two warriors stood facing each other, each ready for the decisive moment. Lyria's muscles were taut, ready to strike again, while Ethan's eyes scanned her movements, analyzing every detail. Then Lyria attacked with a sudden series of strikes faster than before. Her fists and feet blurred in the dim light, aiming to overwhelm him once and for all. Ethan moved with extraordinary precision, sidestepping, ducking, and pivoting around her attacks. He used her momentum cleverly, redirecting energy without force. And then, finally, the opening appeared. Lyria's arm extended for a punch, her balance slightly off, her rhythm momentarily broken. Ethan saw it immediately. He did not hesitate. He moved with speed and precision, striking at exactly the right angle. Not a powerful blow, but a perfectly calculated strike that disrupted her balance. Lyria staggered, surprised by the accuracy and timing. For the first time in countless battles, she felt herself on the defensive, caught off guard by a human. The crowd erupted in astonishment. "He did it! The human found an opening!" someone shouted. Aliens gasped, some unable to comprehend what they had just witnessed. "Impossible! No human could do that!" Lyria blinked, eyes wide with recognition. You are extraordinary," she said, her voice a mixture of admiration and surprise. She steadied herself, preparing for the next strike, but the respect was clear. Ethan stood firm. "Every fight has a moment," he said. "The strongest opponent can be challenged if you observe carefully and act at the right time." The arena vibrated with energy as the two prepared for the next phase of their battle. The stage had shifted. Lyria was no longer the uncontested champion. She had met someone who could match her skill and intelligence. The momentum was no longer hers alone. The spectators watched in awe. They had seen champions before, but never like this. A human, small and underestimated, had found the opening, the moment where strength could be countered with intelligence. The story of this fight was changing before their eyes, and they sensed that history was being written in real time. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the platform. Sparks from their movements reflected off the polished surface, creating a dramatic scene. Every movement, every strike, every dodge was a testament to skill, courage, and human ingenuity. Ethan's calm, calculated movements had shifted the battle. Lyria had fought countless opponents, yet this human had found the key. A small moment, a slight opening, enough to turn the tide. And now, the final phase of the battle was approaching. The decisive moment, when observation, strategy, and courage would determine the outcome, was near. The arena held its breath. The champion and the human stood, facing each other. Lyria's respect for Ethan had grown, but she remained determined. Ethan's patience and strategy had brought him to this point, and now it was time to see the result of human ingenuity in action. The clash was no longer just physical. It was mental, emotional, and strategic. Both warriors understood that the next few moments could decide everything. And in that moment, the stage was set for the final strike, the strike that would either prove the human's worth or reaffirm the champion's dominance. The arena shook with energy as Lyria and Ethan faced each other once more. The crowd's excitement was palpable. Every eye followed their movements, every heartbeat matched the rhythm of the battle. The sun of Zarian Prime had dipped lower and shadows stretched across the platform, making the fight appear even more dramatic. Lyria's breathing was steady, controlled. She had expected most opponents to falter quickly, but Ethan was not faltering. His calmness and focus were unusual, even for a seasoned warrior. She circled him, eyes sharp and alert, looking for the smallest opening. Her reputation as the undefeated champion rested on her ability to strike without hesitation. But today, she realized she could not strike blindly. Ethan stood with his feet slightly apart, hands ready but relaxed. He did not appear tense, yet every movement was calculated. His gaze followed Lyria, noting the way her weight shifted before a strike, the subtle movement of her arms and legs. Humans were not naturally strong, but they could think quickly and adapt. He planned to do just that. The first clash was sudden. Lyria lunged forward, launching a rapid combination of punches and kicks. The air around her seemed to hum with energy, her strength undeniable. Ethan stepped back, letting her momentum carry her past him, and used a small push against the platform to redirect himself. Every move was a balance of avoidance and observation. The audience gasped. "He is still standing!" Someone shouted. "How can a human survive this?" Lyria's eyes narrowed. "Clever human," she murmured under her breath. She increased her speed, testing him further. Each strike was more precise, more powerful. She had faced many warriors, but none had moved with such intelligence in the face of overwhelming force. Ethan's mind worked quickly. He could not fight with raw strength. He was not strong enough. Instead, he relied on agility, strategy, and timing. Every strike from Lyria was a lesson, every attack a hint. He noticed patterns, the slight turn of her wrist before a punch, the bend of her knees before a kick. He adapted, using his knowledge to stay one step ahead. Lyria spun suddenly, delivering a sweeping kick aimed at Ethan's midsection. He ducked, rolling beneath her leg, and came up behind her. He did not strike yet. He only tested her defenses, gently tapping her side to see her reaction. Lyria twisted, blocking him instinctively, and the energy from the tap ricocheted harmlessly across the platform. The crowd erupted in cheers. They had never seen a fight like this. Aliens whispered to each other, incredulous. "Impossible," one said. "No human can move like that." Another shook their head. "He is clever, yes, but he cannot last much longer." Her strength is unmatched, but Ethan did not think of weakness. He thought of opportunity. Humans were adaptable, able to turn disadvantages into advantages. He stayed alert, predicting her next move, always looking for a chance. Every dodge, every roll, every step was intentional. He conserved energy while she grew more aggressive, assuming he would tire. Lyria launched another attack, faster this time. Her fists moved like lightning, strikes aimed to overwhelm him, but Ethan's timing was perfect. He sidestepped one punch, ducked another, and used the momentum of a third strike to push himself away, keeping just out of reach. The champion paused, breathing lightly but eyes burning with focus. "You are not ordinary," she said, a hint of admiration in her voice. "You are strong in ways I did not expect." Ethan responded with a calm nod. "Strength is not always measured in force," he said. "Sometimes it is measured in patience and thinking." The arena grew quiet for a moment, the audience captivated by their words and actions. Then Lyria smiled faintly. She had fought warriors who relied solely on power, but this human was different. He used his mind as much as his body, adapting to every strike, learning, predicting. She realized that brute strength alone would not win this fight. Lyria lunged again, spinning with a combination of strikes meant to test him. Ethan ducked and rolled, avoiding each attack with precision. He used his surroundings cleverly, bouncing off the platform edges and dodging at angles she did not expect. He did not attack with force. His goal was to observe, to find the perfect opening. The audience was amazed. Every movement was a display of skill, not just strength. Aliens had never seen a human fight like this. They began to understand something new. Humans were clever, adaptable, and resilient. They could survive where others would fail, and they could turn a disadvantage into an advantage. Lyria's attacks became more complex. She combined spins, jumps, and rapid strikes, creating a whirlwind of energy around Ethan. Yet he moved with a controlled grace, dodging, twisting, and using momentum to stay balanced. Every strike that could have knocked him off the platform was avoided. For the first time, Lyria felt a challenge she had not anticipated. Most opponents were either reckless or slow. Ethan was neither. He was careful, observant, and clever. She had to adjust her strategy, thinking not just about power but about timing, angles, and prediction. The battle continued, escalating in intensity. Sparks flew as Lyria's strikes hit the platform near Ethan. and the sound of impact echoed across the arena. Each movement was precise, each dodge calculated. The audience could hardly believe what they were witnessing. A human, small and underestimated, was surviving against the greatest champion of the arena. Ethan's breathing was steady. He felt no fear, only focus. He knew that his strength alone was not enough, but his mind was sharp, and his reflexes were faster than most would expect. He observed every twitch, every movement of Lyria, and stored them for future use. Each strike was a lesson, each dodge a test. Lyria noticed it too. "You are learning quickly," she said almost to herself. "Every strike I make, you adapt." "Few have ever done this," Ethan nodded slightly. "I observe to survive," he replied calmly. "Every movement can teach a lesson. Every strike can be a chance to find an opening." The crowd gasped again. The human's method was unlike anything they had seen. Strength was not just power, it was intelligence, skill, and timing. Ethan embodied all three. Lyria decided to push further. She struck faster, combining punches and kicks in ways that were difficult to follow. Her energy created a visible force around her, waves of power that could unbalance even the strongest warrior. But Ethan moved with unmatched precision, stepping lightly, twisting at the right moment, and always keeping balance. He did not counter with force, only with clever movement. Every tap, every step, every dodge was intentional. He conserved energy, staying alert, observing, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The champion realized something important. She could not win with strength alone. The human was clever, patient, and quick to adapt. She had to think, not just act. The fight had become more than a display of power. It was a battle of wits, reflexes, and courage. Ethan's eyes narrowed as he studied her movements. He could sense a small pattern, a slight hesitation before her spinning strikes, a momentary shift in weight before her jumps. These were tiny, almost invisible, but enough for a sharp mind to notice. He planned to use this to his advantage, but not yet. Timing was everything. The arena was electric. The crowd could feel the tension and excitement. This was no longer a simple contest of strength. It was a true test of skill, strategy, and determination. Every spectator leaned forward, unable to look away, amazed at the human standing against the undefeated champion. Lyria lunged once more, a series of rapid strikes aimed to end the fight. Ethan moved with perfect timing, avoiding every blow. He used her momentum to pivot and step behind her, tapping her shoulder lightly, testing her reactions. She adjusted instantly, blocking and countering, but there was a flicker of surprise in her eyes. The first real signs of respect had appeared. Lyria realized this human was no ordinary opponent. He was clever, patient, and unyielding, and he was just beginning to show his true potential. The sun dipped further, casting long shadows that danced across the arena. Sparks from their movements reflected in the polished floor, adding to the dramatic scene. The battle had grown more than physical. It was now a test of mind, strategy, and spirit. Ethan's focus remained unwavering. He knew he could survive this fight, not with strength, but with intelligence, adaptability, and careful timing. He was ready for the moment when he could turn the tide, and Lyria, the undefeated champion, realized that the small human standing before her was more dangerous than she had ever imagined. The clash had begun, and neither warrior would give in easily. The roar of the crowd filled the arena as Ethan and Lyria faced each other across the polished platform. Sparks from the energy barriers reflected in their eyes, casting brief flickers of light over the combatants. The air was thick with tension. Every spectator, alien and human alike, leaned forward in their seats, eager to witness the next moment of the fight. Lyria circled Ethan, her movements fluid and precise. Every step she took seemed measured, as though she were already predicting his next move. She flexed her muscles, and the faint glow in her eyes pulsed with energy. Her reputation as the undefeated champion made her confident, almost untouchable. Ethan, however, did not flinch. He kept his gaze steady, studying her. Humans were not known for raw strength in the galaxy, but they had other advantages: adaptability, creativity, and strategy. Ethan intended to use every advantage he had, no matter how small. The first clash came suddenly. Lyria lunged, her fists slicing through the air with lightning speed. The crowd gasped as her strike left a streak of shimmering light. Ethan reacted instinctively, stepping back and letting her momentum carry her slightly past him. He did not counter yet. He was observing, looking for patterns. Interesting, Lyria murmured almost to herself. She had expected him to panic, to stumble, to beg for mercy. Instead, he moved with calm precision. He dodged, yes, but he did not retreat in fear. There was a sharpness in his eyes, a focused determination that she had not anticipated. The aliens in the crowd were quick to judge. The human is clever, one whispered, but cleverness cannot defeat strength. Another shook their head. He will fall soon. Watch closely, this will end in seconds, but the human did not fall. With every movement, Ethan adapted. He noticed the small tells in Lyria's attacks, the slight twist of her wrist before a punch, the faint shift of her weight before a kick. Small signs, almost invisible, but enough for a trained mind to read. And Ethan's mind was trained not in strength, but in survival and observation. Lyria stepped back, tilting her head slightly. "You are not afraid," she said. "That is unusual." Ethan kept his stance relaxed but ready. "Fear does not help in a fight," he replied calmly. His voice carried across the platform, clear and steady despite the cheering and shouting around him. "I am here to fight." "Nothing more," the crowd murmured again. Humans rarely spoke so boldly in the face of champions. Most would have cowered, but Ethan's words carried confidence, a quiet assurance that unsettled even Lyria. Lyria smiled faintly, not in amusement but in recognition. There was something about this human. He was small, yes, but not weak in spirit. Many of her past opponents had strength and skill, but they lacked patience. They rushed, they struck recklessly, and they fell. Ethan's calm approach suggested he understood more than just fighting. He understood observation, timing, and precision. The second clash came faster. Lyria launched a spinning kick aimed at Ethan's side. The speed was breathtaking, and the crowd cheered at the display of power. But Ethan anticipated it. He leaned back at just the right moment, letting her momentum sweep past him. Using her movement, he stepped forward and lightly tapped her arm. Not a strike meant to hurt, but enough to test her reaction. Lyria's eyes narrowed. She did not expect him to take advantage of her own momentum so quickly. "Clever human," she muttered under her breath. She adjusted her stance, moving faster, striking harder. She realized she could not underestimate him. Ethan stayed calm. His strategy was simple: survive, observe, and exploit patterns. Humans were not naturally strong, but they were quick thinkers. One small advantage, one careful observation, could turn the tide. And he was ready to find that advantage. As they clashed again and again, the arena became a whirlwind of movement. Lyria's strength was unmatched, her speed nearly impossible to follow. Yet Ethan's precision allowed him to evade, dodge, and redirect her attacks. He did not strike hard. He simply used small taps and counters to maintain balance, testing her reactions, feeling for weaknesses. The crowd could not believe what they were seeing. "How is he still standing?" one alien whispered. Another shook their head in disbelief. "It cannot be human. This is unnatural." Lyria's focus sharpened. She had faced skilled opponents before, but they had all been predictable. This human's calm mind and sharp reflexes made him different. Every time she attacked, he moved with purpose, as if he were reading her thoughts. For a moment, Lyria paused, assessing him carefully. "You are unusual," she said, her voice calm but filled with interest. "Most would have already fallen begging for mercy, but you are not afraid." Ethan took a deep breath, centering himself. "Fear is not useful," he said again. "I fight to win, but also to survive. Every move counts," the aliens in the stands whispered among themselves. "He speaks with wisdom, not just courage," one said. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as we thought." Another shook their head. "No, this is just luck. He cannot survive much longer." But Ethan was not relying on luck. Every movement, every dodge, every step he took was calculated. He observed, learned, and adapted. The human's strength was not in raw power, but in intelligence and creativity. He had survived in harsher conditions than any alien could imagine, and he knew that the same principle applied here. Lyria lunged again, this time faster than ever. Her strike was precise, meant to end the fight. The crowd held its breath. But Ethan sidestepped at the exact moment, letting her energy carry her past him. With a quick pivot, he tapped her shoulder, testing her reaction, feeling for the right opening. Her eyes widened slightly in surprise. You are learning fast," she said, admiration in her voice. "Most opponents cannot keep up with me, yet you are adapting to every move." Ethan nodded slightly. "Observation is as important as strength," he said. "Even the strongest can be overcome with knowledge and timing." The crowd erupted in cheers. They were witnessing something extraordinary, a human matching the greatest champion in the arena, not with brute force but with strategy and intelligence. The spectators could hardly believe their eyes. The story of this fight would be remembered for generations. Lyria's attacks became more complex. She combined spins, jumps, and strikes that would have crushed almost anyone. Yet Ethan moved with remarkable agility, his body responding with instinctive precision. Each movement was controlled, deliberate, and clever. He used the platform itself to his advantage, bouncing off edges, using momentum, and avoiding the most powerful attacks. The champion was learning too. She had faced hundreds of fighters, but none had ever surprised her like this. She began to respect the human's skill, his patience, and his cleverness. This fight was no longer a simple victory. It was a challenge, one she could not take lightly. Ethan's focus never wavered. He did not speak unless necessary, keeping his mind clear and his senses sharp. He analyzed every movement, predicting patterns and waiting for the perfect moment. Humans were not always the strongest, but they were resilient, adaptable, and clever. And he intended to prove that today. As the sun began to set over Zerion Prime, casting long shadows across the arena, the battle continued. The platform had become a stage for strategy and skill rather than just strength. Lyria's confidence remained, but now it was mixed with caution. Ethan had earned her attention, her respect, and the audience's awe. The first impressions were clear. This human was not ordinary. He was clever, patient, and fearless. He was small, but he was unyielding, and in the heart of the greatest arena in the galaxy, he was beginning to prove that humans could stand against even the mightiest champions. The crowd leaned forward, sensing the tension and excitement. They knew the fight was far from over, but one thing was certain. This was no ordinary match, and the story of a human facing the champion Lyria had only just begun. The arena stood like a monument to power. Its walls were carved from dark stone that gleamed under the twin suns of Zerion Prime. Thousands of spectators packed the floating galleries, their eyes bright with excitement. They were not just aliens. They were warriors, nobles, and merchants from hundreds of worlds. They had gathered for a single purpose, to see who would dominate the arena of champions. In the center of the arena, a circular platform rose above the ground. Its surface was smooth, polished, and wide enough for even the largest combatants. Around it, energy barriers glimmered, ready to protect the spectators from the fury that would erupt within. And today, all eyes were on Lyria, the alien champion who had never been defeated. Her name was whispered with awe and fear. Her skin shimmered with a silvery hue, muscles taut and strong, and her eyes glowed faintly with a confident light. She had fought warriors from dozens of planets, each one stronger than the last, and she had crushed them all. Today, she would declare her dominance once more. Lyria raised her arms, and the crowd fell silent. She had a voice that carried, sharp and commanding, capable of cutting through the roar of thousands. "I am Lyria," she announced, "and this arena is mine. Whoever dares to challenge me must be ready to face the full power of a champion. Step forward if you have courage." A ripple of excitement passed through the audience. They knew many would try, but all would fail. Lyria's confidence was not arrogance, it was truth. Few in the galaxy could match her, and none had so far. From the far side of the arena, a human appeared. Small, unremarkable by alien standards, he moved with calm confidence. His brown hair fell over his forehead, and his eyes, sharp and observant, scanned the arena and the crowd. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and most were considered weak. The audience whispered and laughed at his presence. A human here? He will be crushed. The human did not speak. He stepped onto the arena platform, and the energy barriers sealed around it. Now there was no turning back. He was here in the heart of a place meant only for the strongest. His name was Ethan, and he was nothing like the aliens expected. Lyria's eyes widened slightly, not in fear but in interest. She had fought many strong opponents, but humans were always underestimated. She had never seen one with such calm determination. "You dare to enter the arena?" she asked, her voice like a whip. "Do you know who I am?" Ethan nodded. "I know, and I am here to fight." The crowd laughed, a high, harsh sound that echoed off the walls. "This is entertainment," one alien shouted. "The human will be destroyed in seconds." But Lyria did not speak again. She assumed the usual stance, her body coiled like a predator ready to strike. The ground seemed to tremble slightly beneath her feet as she prepared for battle. Her muscles flexed with anticipation and her eyes locked on Ethan, sizing him up. He did not move. He simply stood, waiting, watching, learning. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Let the first match begin." Immediately, Lyria lunged. She was faster than anything Ethan had seen before. Her movements were a blur, each strike precise and deadly. The audience gasped as her fists smashed the platform, leaving marks in the polished stone. But Ethan moved differently. He did not try to match her strength. He could not. Instead, he observed, stepping lightly and avoiding her attacks with careful timing. He dodged, ducked, and twisted around her powerful blows. Every strike that could have crushed him was narrowly avoided. The crowd's laughter turned into murmurs of surprise. "How is he still standing?" one alien whispered. "No human could survive this long." Ethan's mind worked quickly. Every movement Lyria made was calculated, almost predictable if one paid attention. He noticed patterns in her attacks, small tells that gave him just enough time to react. While the aliens relied on power and speed, humans relied on strategy. Ethan used his surroundings, stepping over cracks, bouncing off the edges of the platform, and using momentum to his advantage. Lyria's eyes flickered with recognition. This human was not like the others. He was clever and he did not fear her. Her attacks became faster, more complex, but Ethan adapted with ease. Each dodge, each block, each movement showed that he was learning as the battle went on. The audience was on the edge of their seats. The arena had never seen a fight like this. Aliens had fought humans before, but they were always defeated in seconds. This human moved with intelligence, not just instinct. He was small, yes, but every move was precise, every reaction calculated. Lyria paused for a moment, breathing heavily. She had faced warriors who were stronger, faster, and larger, but none had surprised her like this. The human's calmness, his ability to read her movements, made her think. She had expected to win easily, yet here she was, challenged by someone she had underestimated. Ethan saw the pause and considered his next move. He didn't rush. He stayed focused, his eyes never leaving Lyria. He knew one mistake could cost him dearly, but he also knew that patience was his greatest weapon. The human's advantage was not in raw strength. It was in thinking ahead, in using the mind to overcome even the most powerful foes. Around the arena, spectators whispered in awe. He might actually have a chance," someone said. Another alien shook their head, unable to believe what they were seeing. "Impossible. It's just a human. Humans are weak." Yet even as they doubted, a sense of excitement grew. The unpredictability of this match made it thrilling. No one could guess what the human would do next. Lyria's dominance was being tested, and the audience could feel it in every movement, every clash, every step across the arena. For the first time, Lyria smiled. Not in arrogance, but in respect. She realized this fight would not be easy. This human was not afraid. He did not tremble or falter. He had come into her world, into her arena, and he stood ready to face her without hesitation. The energy in the arena shifted. The roar of the crowd was louder now, a mixture of excitement, fear, and curiosity. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. The fight had become more than just a contest of strength. It was a test of skill, intelligence, and courage. Ethan took a deep breath, centering himself. He could feel Lyria's power, the weight of her experience pressing down on him, but he also felt something else, something stronger than fear: confidence. Humans had survived against impossible odds before. They had adapted, learned, and overcome challenges that seemed insurmountable. Today would be no different. As Lyria prepared for another strike, Ethan's eyes focused. He knew he could not win with strength alone. He would have to use every skill, every thought, every bit of his human ingenuity to stay alive. But he was ready. The arena was hers. She had declared it hers. But Ethan was about to show that even the mightiest could be challenged by one determined human. And in that moment, the stage was set. The battle had begun, and the legend of a human who could stand against the greatest champion in the galaxy was about to start.